Before we get this day started, just want to say that we still have to allow this team to be assembled before we cast any aspersions on Shotty. His interview will be this week, and of course we'll go over his tone and the way he talk and the way he sound. But looking back at the final two teams, on one end you got the Kansas City Chiefs, Pat Mahomes. We know what he brings to the table, but we will be foolish to not to bring up that defense is still a real one. And, of course, when we look at, respectfully, the Philadelphia Eagles and what they were able to do with running the ball and being the number one defense in the National Football League is quite showing that you can see that both of these teams, the number one defense versus the number two defense, will be at the Super Bowl. Granted. I would tell you that Pat Mahomes is Money Mahomes, and you know what he brings to the table as far as you got to cover every blade of grass out there on the field. You can't blink because this brother can scoop and get out there and find ways to embarrass you, right? And then you have on the opposite end, you have a Saquon Barkley, not Saquon Barkley, but a Saquon Barkley who's, if you miss one or two guys, if they miss, he can be in the end zone dancing away, or it can be a house call, basically. So the Cowboys, when we look at this report, they will bring in Miami's outside linebacker for a coaching opportunity, Ryan Crow, and then they will also been reported that Mike Zim retired, and it's been lamented by Terrence Parsons that this is a big loss because of the fact that Michael Parsons had his best career with Mike Zim, but this will be his third defensive coordinator, whoever it may be, in 3 years. But that's neither here nor there. They will also interview Carlos Polk, and they will be interviewing Kevin Koger. So they're keeping their options open as far as who they're going to bring in. And, of course, Jane Slater reported that Jason Witten may not be a part of this particular staff. I don't know what happened with that, but the confusions with Eberflus being here or not, it could be just the situation that they would like to do the Rooney Rule of bringing in some of these coaches so that they can interview. Keep in mind, it takes a minute to assemble your staff. So the staffing of the Cowboys is the most important thing. Let me repeat. The staffing of the Cowboys is the most important thing. And if the Cowboys can get anything right this offseason, we would hope and pray that they get the staffing part right. Coaches coach, find free agent players, whether they're here on this team or whether they're outside of this team, and boom, everything will work its way out. Of course, by us being a draft-dependent team, we must draft well in this particular draft. We got to get starters. We need to look at this particular draft, and I don't like this philosophy, but you need to find 3 starters out of this draft. A running back, right, a wide receiver, and for a super surprise, maybe, just maybe, someone else on the defensive end. Maybe it's a linebacker. Maybe it's an edge rusher or an interior guy. One can say, hey, we definitely need a not a safety, but a DB, a cornerback. Yeah, we definitely need one of them. But ideology, normally that don't happen that way. It don't happen that way when you find 3 starters out of a draft. We do have 10 picks, and you want to get as close as possible to that top 100, right, out of our 10 picks. But neither here nor there. Shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs and as well as the Philadelphia Eagles. We see how they can set up a team with running back, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end that can you have to be responsible for. And, of course, people going to talk about Jalen Hurts. But all of this didn't happen by surprise. It was a plan. They planned all of that, and they have arsenals. They have a lot of weapons over there. They have more weapons than the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, just have more experiences, far as Andy Reid and what he can bring to the table, and the wizard that he is, Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce, right? And the defense, Chris Jones. They got pieces that they know how to work together, and they've been together, and they got qualifying coaches, Spags, and no one to sneeze at. And on top of that, like when I'm talking about Andy Reid, come on, he's Andy Reid, But post me your thoughts, post me your concerns down below, Cowboy Nation. This will be a long off season. We need to figure out, okay, we know the problems, we know the issues, we know those two things. We need to find solutions. We can cry about it all off seasons, or we can figure out ways to find the solutions. And that's what we're looking for in the 2025 off season. The solution, that's what we're looking for. Post me your thoughts, post me your concerns down below. That's been my time. I really thank you all for yours. And remember, you're listening to nothing but the best. Let's get it, Cowboy Nation. Stand tall or not at all. Peace.